I would describe it as, soulful, rich. There's a rich history a lot of people don't know. There's a lot of wisdom there that people need to tap into. Like I can remember this one cat in the neighborhood. I never knew his name. Every time he would drive by, he's from the old school, and so he would, drive by us and put his fist up like this, an old gray-haired man,
From the time I was a little child. Actually, I saw the Montgomery bus boycott when I was a child, and the next year I was one of the first kids that was in a predominantly white classroom in San Antonio, which was the first in the state. It was an interesting experience in that I came from Austin, Texas, where Houston Tillotson College was across the street from the elementary school that I was at, which trained their teachers. When we moved into the predominant white classroom with the white teacher, I just happened to be a whole year ahead of all the rest of the class because of the concentrated learning that I had done before. Okay, from there, I guess I got my first NAACP card, and my family was involved with the civil rights movement on a continuous basis.
We had so many people that were involved in doing things, and like I said, the Eastside, I grew up on the Eastside. I grew up on Gulf Street. My family has a home there, and I even bought a house down the street from where I grew up. And I really, I couldn't say anything that was bad about it. My family went to Holy Redeemer school. We all went to the Catholic church there. There were other places. My mother and father, they all went to Phyllis Wheatley. All of my family went to Phyllis Wheatley. So there were really no boundaries as far as that, because we lived here, and then I had grandparents that lived on the west side of town. I've lived here all my life. I think it's a great place.
My father started the first African American beauty supply. He has a beautiful story. He was from the East Side, dropped out of school in 8th grade to help raise a family, worked for a gentleman, Tracy's Drugstore, who took him under his wing in his business, and my dad stayed with him till he was like 25 years old. And at that point, my dad went on his own to start his own business, and that was like incubator before it was incubator, so when my dad started his own, he came to this place in 1968, and we were still the only that sort of business. And times have changed. We expanded, the demographics changed. So in community outreach, we have a kitty corner, which we do arts and crafts, environmental, other kinds of graffiti, anti-bullying, other kinds of displays for the kids. And then we have our free library, which are free books for the kids. We have free books for the kids, and we're starting a free library for adults. Reading education is always important in our area. So we still maintain this, and then I have an incubator business here as well, which is Little Ronnie's Wigs and Apparel. So I share my customers with him to get him on his feet. I bring in incubators. Most minority businesses fail within 2 years because they don't know the financial part, and they're already struggling from the very beginning with the first month's rent and with the small business loan. So I give them the opportunity for 6 months or more to get on their feet, to make the numbers that they should be making, and then if they want to stay, they stay. If they want to go, they go. So, my services are always changing depending on what's going on.
My name is Joaquin Arch, known in the community as Jock. I am the VP of Business Development here at Straight Line Management Construction. We do project management, project development, community development, commercial rehab, and residential rehab. I grew up right here in this neighborhood, right off of Burnett and Grimes. Went to Wheatley Middle School and then to St. Gerard's. I have quite a few families still here in San Antonio, aunts, nephews, nieces. My dad's still around, and I have a grandmother. We just celebrated her 90th birthday. So, kind of have a lot of deep roots here on the east side of San Antonio.
My name is Tamara Rochelle Guess. I am 39 years old, born here in San Antonio. I graduated from Sam Houston High School in '92, graduated from St. Philip's in '09 with my associates in early childhood education. 6 more classes and I'll have my bachelor's degree in early childhood education from UTSA. But of course, due to finances, being a single mom, 2 kids, I'm not able to pay for school right now, so I'm on hiatus. I was in early childhood education for 20 years. I stepped away from that career in April, and now I'm doing, I'm a writer. I write poetry. I do spoken word. I'm also in radio media right now. Also, I work with the youth program with the Claude and Zenona Black Youth Leadership Program. This is actually my first summer working with the program, and it's totally different. 8 to 18-year-olds compared to 3 to 5-year-olds. Totally different. Mindsets are different, attitudes are different, but they're still children. So I'm able to take what I've learned from the academia plus my 20 years of experience and apply it here. I can say that I think I've formed a pretty good bond with some of the children. The older children don't really like me, being that I am a very direct, straightforward individual. They don't like that, but you know, I don't feel that it's a waste of time. I hopefully I think or want to believe that it's going to be beneficial to them at some point in time.
I was raised here on the east side of San Antonio, and I was raised up in the Wheatley Courts. And my brother, he taught martial arts, and he taught everybody in the community, and taught everybody in the Sun Homes and the East Terrace. And we was raised here, but we wasn't born here. We was born in Maryland. And my mother, she's from Picayune, Mississippi. That's like the outskirts of New Orleans, right across the bridge from it. And my great-grandmother, she lived to be 117 years old.
I'm Maggot from Maggot's Grocery Store. I've been there like 50 years, and I've been working in our family store. My grandparents started the store in 1883, and my grandmother took it over, and my parents ran it.
My name is Robert Mays, and I'm a barber at 1332 East Commerce, Gold Star Barber Shop. And I came from Austin, Texas in 1954. I was a little boy at that time. And I went to Dora Miller Elementary for 1 year, and then I went to Douglas for 3 years, and I went to Wheatley for 3 years. After I finished that, I went to Barber College and finished that. And then I went to the Law Enforcement Academy at Texas A&M. And after I finished that, I went to school for real estate, finished that. Then I went to Southwest Texas State and got my degree in business management. But I still decided I was going to stick with barbering also, although I taught school for about 4 years. And I started back to cutting hair regular after I got out of law enforcement. I worked for Bell County Deputy Sheriff for 20 years. I started cutting hair again back in 1986. And I've been cutting hair again ever since that. And I was cutting hair at Taylor's Barber Shop. We're on West Commerce. Then I came over to the Eastside at 1332 East Commerce. And I've been up here ever since that 1988 until now at this present time. And for me continuing to be here, I'm not sure how long before this place will be sold. It's up for sale because they're going to do revitalization in this area. And I just stay and see what happens there until that time comes. Other than that, I'll still just be a barber up here. Then I'll go ahead and retire after that whenever they do sell it here.
Okay. My name is Harold Johnson. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida, 1979. I came here to San Antonio in probably 92, 93. I went to Martin Luther King Middle School on the east side. From there, I went to Sam Houston. From there, I went to Southwest Texas State University, which is now known as Texas State University, and from there to the University of Houston, and have recently moved back within the last 3 years.
My name is Freddie Brown. I'm at my Uncle Robert's barbershop. I normally come down here because he's been there for me for a long time, so the kid is really a father figure for me. And a little bit about myself. I went to, my stepdad was military, so we moved around a lot, but I ended up graduating from Killeen High School, and which is close to, Fort Hood, Texas. And I went to Prairie View A&M, and I graduated from Prairie View A&M with a mechanical engineering degree, and I was in the ROTC program at the time. So basically, I got commissioned as a second lieutenant, and went in the military, served 10 years, went to Desert Storm, Bronze Star recipient, so I had a pretty successful military career. And I got out and started business, and I've been doing business pretty much since then. Decorated veteran from the Army, so that's pretty much who I am. I have 3 kids. I have my oldest son. He's worked in the White House with President Obama, and my daughter, she's at the University of Alabama. My son's a graduate from the University of Texas. My daughter's at the University of Alabama, and she's going to be a pediatrician. And my youngest son, he's still trying to figure it out. He's only like 14.
I was brought here from Seattle, Washington. Never been to San Antonio, didn't really know why I was brought here, and believed that it was something that God sent me here, and in particular on the east side of town. I was always drawn to this side of town, not so much because of all the needs, but because of the spirit of the community, and just love the history and the surroundings. And in doing that, I was able to start a nonprofit organization called Project New Beginnings, and started as a street ministry, and was able to impact the community by providing food and services.
I'm Brother Mondrea, aka the Urban Griot, the urban storyteller, poet, writer, activist, born on the south side of Chicago, actually. Been here in San Antonio for about 3 years going. Loving the east side. Fell in love with the east side because, of course, when I first moved to Texas, they told me east side is not the place where you're supposed to be. So, of course, that's the place I had to go to. And kind of disappointed because it wasn't as dangerous as everybody was talking about. But the activist side of me saw and started noticing the difference when you would move out of the east side closer to downtown and see the demographic of who lived where. And I really wanted to understand the history of why this area was untouched and it is as it is. And as
My name is Walter Perry. I'm a resident of the Eastside community. I work here at the Claude Black Youth Camp. I've been here pretty much about 1.5 years now, but I've been working volunteer with the kids for the last 3-4 months, well, basically the whole summer. And what makes it gratifying for me is that I'm able to influence kids in a positive way, and to be able to bring something new, something more refreshing, and to let these kids know that someone is there for them, someone loves them, and someone is there to encourage them. And if there was one wish that I can have for these children, is that these children won't have to go through the things that I went through as a youngster. And hopefully, if it's God's will, I can continue to work with these kids in the future.
My story is, well, we came to the east side. Well, my mom was born in El Paso, then she had me, then she moved to San Antonio. And then we got a house, but we moved out of the house and into an apartment. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but when I come here, it's really fun. We do gymnastics on the mats, and we play soccer, football, basketball. It's really all fun activities. We eat really healthy foods like salads, sandwiches, juices. I really like this summer camp, and it helps my mom because it just gives her a little alone time to figure things out. And I really like the summer camp, and I hope I come back next year.
The reason why I choose to come here because I like it and I hang out with my friends and all that, right? But most birds I come here so my mama can get back on her feet because we was in a shelter, but not anymore. We got a house and she's working out to buy us clothes and all of that stuff. But we got a lot of clothes, but we still come here so she can get back on her feet and she can do whatever she needs to do. And then it's fun because you can do a lot of things here and express your feelings at home and here with your friends and stuff.
Actually have started a different organization. I started the Claude Black Foundation, Claude and Zernona Black Developmental Leadership Foundation. And what we do is we work with at-risk kids. What we do is we use the basement of the church. We've been using it for the last 2-3 years during the summer for the space to be able to run our program. What we teach is let the past influence your future. If you know where you've come from, maybe it will give you a little more pride to conduct yourself in a better way. Many of these kids that come now don't have any idea what their forefathers and ancestors had to go through to get them to this point. Many of these kids have no idea of what their history is.
There were some bad things and some bad times and stuff. My father talked about the segregation, and I did John Muir Miles's book, and he said that there was no money. They had teachers, they had a couple of lawyers that were here, and there were no really serious jobs. And then my grandmother told me that there was an Upper East Side and a Lower East Side. And I was like, really? All of this was East Side to me. But when you think about it, the Upper East Side was...
The Brackenridge Center next door was the first public school for black children, established somewhere in the early 1900s, earlier part of that century, and it was also advocated for by the efforts of members of this congregation who were just committed to giving black children an opportunity to get an education, and so it was fought for, it was lobbied hard for, and it served a very great purpose of giving, again, children of color that chance. This neighborhood was pretty much a neighborhood that was pretty much, the East Side used to be, in this particular sector, was primarily black, African American, and so I think when the early residents of this area, I think they decided, they were trying to make things better for their children. And
I went to St. Gerard High School, and all of the ministers were involved within the community, and G.J. Sutton, the Sutton family was very involved in a lot of different things that were happening within San Antonio. And the East Side was it was a great place to grow up and a great place to learn and see different things.
And when I talk about the old line civil rights leaders, I'm talking about Reverend Claude Black, G.J. Sutton, and these people who were the initial leaders of the civil rights movement here in San Antonio.
We cut the ribbon for Barbara Jorgen, cut the ribbon for Community Cap, and I would feel proud because I go out there and I feel one of them, because when I was young, I was just involved. Now I'm a senior and I like it because I support whatever they want to do.
Reverend Claude Black was pastor of the church for 49 years, and then he served as pastor emeritus the remaining 12 years after that of his life. This church was very involved in the movement, very involved in the development of this community and in the lives of African Americans. Through his leadership of this church, they formed a lot of different beneficial organizations. One was the Mount Zion First Baptist Church Credit Union, which was started to help African Americans obtain loans that they were not being able to obtain before that point. It was developed by the members of this church and joined by 9 other local churches, to where they were able to come in and have something that they could go to send their kids to college, to be able to buy a car for the family, to be able to do the things that they needed to be able to do. This church also started several senior citizens communities. We have the Mount Zion Shelter and Arms. We had the Mount Zion Daycare Center, where mothers were able to bring their kids for $1 a week for daycare services. which was something that was unheard of, where they received breakfast and lunch and education.
Actually, Taj came to me maybe a few years ago, and he was discussing the idea of starting a youth camp for underprivileged and troubled kids on the east side of town. I'm not even gonna lie to you, at first I wasn't really open to it because I had so much going on, and I guess I had like this, it was a selfishness about myself. I wanted to help myself before I was able to help other people. But through time and through certain circumstances, Taj and I formed a bond, and he started the program, and he came to me again. Actually came to me while I was in the hospital recovering from an auto accident, and he talked about the children and helping the kids and being a part of the community, and that's something that I've always wanted to do. I didn't know if it was in the direction of children, but that's where the blessings took me, and I've been heavily involved in it since the summer. And what makes it best for me is that, like I said, I'm able to be a positive influence on people, especially coming from a negative background and doing negative things. So I want to be a positive force for these kids in the future.
Together to really focus, put a real focus on our youth, because they are our future. They really are our future.
My name is Shatana Houston. I go to Roosevelt High School, age 16. What I like to do for fun, run track, and I live on the east side.
My name is Edasia Woodford. I'm 15. I go to Roosevelt High School. I like gold jewelry, and I live on the east side.
My name is Robert Sheffield. I'm 15. I stay on the east side, and I go to Sam Houston High School.
My name is Monique Taylor New. I'm going to the 6th grade, Legacy Middle School. I'm 11 years old, and I like track and soccer. In my career, I want to be a pediatrician, and I want to help the poor people.
Jordan, I'm 10. I'm going to 6th grade, and I'm going to Paul. I live around here. I live right around the corner, and my favorite thing to do is play baseball.
I think there's a certain point where we actually have failed the youth, the ones that came behind us. Okay. In terms of laying out that education, in a lot of things, the foundation in terms of that education as to how you perceive, and function in the world. I think a lot of what we see as troubling that goes on in our communities is because we didn't leave behind that educational, foundation. Okay, when we decided that we were going to be, black and proud, all right? Somehow that foundation didn't seem to set in kind of way that we probably would have wanted it to. Then again, we understand that we're up against what we might call an enemy kind of culture that was the antithesis to what we were trying to do, at that time, which probably won out over us in a whole lot of the things that we were trying to do in terms of trying to maintain a change, and which also falls on us again too, in that I guess a lot of us just decided it was more important to have a corporate job and a house in the suburb and a Mercedes, okay, rather than to provide authentic leadership that would lay that kind, of foundation.
Against the wall! You're not living! I said get down! You're not living! You're not living! Down!
You get down! I'm black and I'm proud. I'm going to jail! No!
Did you just go to jail? You ain't black and you're not proud.
I've learned is that a lot of our children that we service are African American, and a lot of our children come from broken homes. They don't have positive role models. They're not getting a positive word when they leave in the morning. They're not hearing, "I love you, I care about you, have a good day." those words are foreign to some of them. So what I've tried to do is, even though my relationship might not be as strong with the 14 through 17 as it is with the 13 and under, because I was working with children 13 to 5 years old with this program. But what I've learned is just giving them a kind word.
Imagine that I'll be in the NFL and I'm I'm going to championship and play basketball and in the NBA. And then I'm going to play track and I'm going to play. Sometimes I like to play tennis and sometimes I like to play volleyball. And I imagine that I'm going to be a firefighter in the police. And I like to count because we be playing in the gym, get on computer and play games.
What made me want to be an actress is going to being in middle school and having to do theater arts. And it was interesting, you know, being able to be yourself in theater, like nobody judges you, you're like a free spirit. And it was just amazing, like costumes and the makeup and everybody watching you do stuff you like to do, like, and knowing like they can't judge you because, you know, it's, you know, acting. And it was fun, and that's how that was like a stress reliever. If I was feeling down about something, I'd go in my room and do a monologue in the mirror and just like relieve myself and do my warm-ups and stuff. And it was like my way of getting out of this world and going into another one, and it was just amazing.
And one of our biggest initiatives is to help young people be exposed to the areas of construction and what the possibilities are and the type of money that you can make in this business. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. I'm excited to see the growth of San Antonio, especially on a global scale, because, you know, that's what we're gearing our kids up for now, is not to be only thinking on our local economy, but on a global economy.
I guess is what it means to me. I mean, family's everything. I mean, that's where I've always been brought up, you know. I mean, family's everything. And I guess as far as family, the key thing that I really emphasize, you know, for family and kids is education. I mean, it's a lot, gain a lot of knowledge, and education is I don't know, it's the best. That's what I prefer. And I push it on my kids a lot. And they really, really proud of them. So it's pretty much what, you know, as far as what I emphasize on what's very, very important to me.
What we're looking at is, especially focus on going back to school, is looking at our juniors and seniors, because while we're going through the restoration of the Eastside, it's going to be a 5-year process with different programs and different grants of redevelopment, restoration, and reinvestment. So we're hoping that within those 5 years that the seniors go off to college, that they will be really amplified to come back to the neighborhood and bring their talents back. So this is a big thing. Working with the little ones, letting them know how much their education is needed for them to get to that. Well, that's going to be a next decade of a process. But working with juniors and seniors, by the time they go off to school, 4 years, 5 years, come back and implement their talents into the neighborhood. So we want to lay a foundation for them to be interested to come into the area rather than going outside the area for job opportunities. And that's a lot of things of what we're trying to put together.